That's bullshit?
Yep.
Why was that bullshit?
There's completely different types of games for different devices, different tastes.
Really focus on the game, trying to create something that's fun, that's engaging.
CryptoKitties almost killed Ethereum.
They just do it for fun. And
I'm going to start off with a little bit of an awkward question.
The launch team wishes you good luck and Godspeed.
Space monkeys blasting off on gaming in the Polkadot ecosystem with 4 very special guests. Lucas from Everloop. We have Nick from Ayuna. We have Adam from Kusama, and we have Alex from Unique Network. We're all here to talk about the development of gaming. Guys, welcome to the show. Thank you very much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
So I'm going to start off with a little bit of an awkward question. When I first joined crypto several years ago, one of the first promises made to me was that it would change gaming forever. I guess my first question for all you guys is, what's taking so long?
What do you mean?
NFTs were going to completely revolutionize gaming markets and give people access to their own assets. And
Have you heard of Play to Earn?
so tell me about that.
Happened a couple of years ago. It was like a few $1 billion changed hands. Something did happen.
Why don't we hear about Play to Earn so much anymore?
Everybody kind of jokes about that, how, it's a Ponzi scheme, how crypto overall is a big kind of hype, pump and dump and so on.
Yeah,
That's how innovation happens. Think of it. Coming up, discovering a new room that's in vacuum, doesn't have anything in it.
Yeah.
Okay? You open the door, what happens?
Well,
Pressure starts widely kind of equalizing, right?
Sure.
So you have these wild swings in the beginning. And then you slowly start to get there. So, we had CryptoKitties. It kind of almost killed Ethereum, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we discovered something. We learned something. Don't do too much smart contracts or you'll kill Ethereum.
Okay.
And then we had Play to Earn.
Okay.
Don't do Ponzi schemes. They're not going to last.
Gotcha.
Maybe a different perspective. I think we have Play to Earn has really bad rap as sort of a term. And if you think about it, Play to Earn has been around for many years, whether that was back in sort of World of Warcraft and it was sort of an illegal thing to go outside of the system and sort of try to trade things.
Sure.
But maybe another way that you can see streaming, like companies like Twitch and now Kick and Rumble. That's their business model, right? What are their streamers doing? They're just online, playing video games and earning money. But if you think of it, let's say from a community perspective, Play to Earn is viable, but not for everyone, right? Usually you will see that, let's take a streamer for an example. He's playing games, but he's adding value to the ecosystem. He's giving, let's say, visibility to the studio for their game.
Yeah.
He's providing entertainment, let's say, for his audience.
Right.
And a small economy starts being created around him, right? He needs a moderator, he needs somebody who does his videos. And so maybe that's a different perspective of how you can look sort of Play to Earn. It's there, but it doesn't mean that everybody's going to sort of start playing Axie Infinity and everybody sort of makes games. So maybe that's a different approach to Play to Earn.
Yeah, thank you. That's some really nice nuance. Okay. So we learned our lessons from that sort of extreme Ponzonomics Play to Earn. What are we filling this new vacuum with lately?
I think we're going right now actually to the actual meat around the bone, right? Sort of we're past these initial experiments, but we're still in experimentation phase. I mean, maybe look at back in the time when the Nokia phone came out, right? Sort of, which that's 2000s. Somebody decided, hey, I'm going to make a stupid game, which is just a snake going around.
Great game.
You can't get any more rudimentary technology than sort of a dot matrix screen and sort of a keyboard.
Yeah.
Now, the same year, the PlayStation 2 was out. It's not that everybody suddenly say, hey, F PlayStation 2 or in Grand Theft Auto, I'm going to go convert to playing Snake on my Nokia. But maybe what it did back then, it sort of triggered developers and the community that, hey, maybe there is a future in this device. And fast forward to today, mobile gaming is by far the biggest vertical inside the gaming space.
Adam, you guys had a lot of big games and ideas coming up, and you guys are now consolidating on the Kusama chain. What's that looking like?
I think we're yet to see like a viable, long-term sustainable economy around Play to Earn, because the problem is that you are continuously inflating the token supply. You also would need to continuously introduce some kind of sink, some kind of outlet for those tokens to compensate for it. So at Kusama, we had the Minecraft Carnage events where you could earn these tokens, and people were playing every week, increasing the supply. And we were trying to, introduce this crafting economy around it. So it went from Play to Earn to Play to Craft. But it's also something very exhausting to do because you continuously need to introduce new things to craft and new things to keep people entertained. And it just becomes a never-ending chore. And eventually it started to have like the same Dumperino effect when people earn stuff for free. They just it always feels less valuable and people dump it. So it's a big challenge that I'm still trying to crack of like how to make it in a way that actually doesn't create that pump and dump Ponzinomics effect. And I haven't seen anybody crack this really. It's still creating avenues for token holders where they can use up their tokens in a way that it doesn't feel like you try to trap them, but make them create something out of it, like those tokens, burn it, use it up. That creates value and like in a different way and kind of uses up those introduced increased token supply.
Interesting.
But I feel like there are models that have shown to work. And I think we're trying one of them, which is just really focus on the game, trying to create something that's fun, that's engaging, and using the blockchain on top of it, trying to further up develop with it, but like in the core have your gameplay, which I think there are a ton of games that live off of that, off of having a good game and then building on top of it. So I'm not sure what your opinion on that is, but I feel like without having a solid game at the core, like nothing works.
What's the foundation of a solid game?
I mean, there's a couple of things. I mean, game design is always a big part. I mean, again, we get to stuff like tokenomics there again, but like creating game loops that are actually engaging. That maybe you don't need a token at the end to reward you, but you have like a fun experience in there, and you feel like rewarded afterwards because you slain a monster or something, and you don't need that token to pop up in your wallet to actually feel that dopamine rush. So that's like one approach, like actually trying to build around game loops that players enjoy.
I think maybe one of the nice things about, because gaming is a really, really broad sort of term. Within gaming, there's completely different types of games that sort of are suited for different devices, different tastes and everything.
Sure.
And I think that's actually one of the exciting things in our ecosystem right now, that you have parachains like us that we've been in this ecosystem trying sort of to work with the technology and sort of actually use it, like the blockchain with all its limitations and its shitty block times and all of these things. And then now having, for example, somebody like Mythical entering, which they're taking a completely different approach, which is pretty much try to, at least that's the way that I understand it, that try to hide the blockchain completely from sort of the end user. And the idea is that sort of the sacrifice there is that I guess their goal was, how can I be compliant to be on an app store? So at least I open up the access. And the way that they're doing it is, hey, you sign up with your email. In the background, I'm creating a guest, let's say, wallet. And I guess their hope is that if you're engaged enough in the game, there's going to be a point that I'll be able to trigger and tell you, hey, by the way, that asset in your game, it's yours. And if you want to claim it, you just need to go get your wallet. So I think there's different approaches, and that's why I believe we're getting very close to the meat on the bone, that everybody's really trying to figure out how it's working. I still think the biggest problem is access. You can't expect game developers to make 50 or 100 million investments to create a Call of Duty when there's no access. Right? It's like making a game for a Windows phone. Nobody has a Windows phone.
Right.
Yeah. I actually have a cool story about Mythical. I just had a conversation with a friend a couple of days ago. I played a lot of CSGO back in the day, and they have like skins, and they live in their own Steam marketplace, but they were like third-party stores that started like trading places for those.
Sure.
And like he traded one of those, and he told me, like in the transaction I did, there was like a information, your block hash or something is this, and it says like, oh, it was from Mythical, and he asked me like, what does it mean? And I was surprised that they actually are using it, and then I looked into it and I found out that they're basically running that in the back end, and then I told him about blockchain. He was interested. He found it interesting that they're doing stuff like that. So I think it's an interesting approach, and I think it can definitely get people into this space.
Fascinating.
Yeah, and we're coming, those thoughts are coming to the kind of, I think, a good answer to your original question, what has happened and what will happen. We are all in here, and everybody is a creator. They want the role for them, what they're doing, to be front row. They want to be on stage. They want to be famous and rich, right? That's what kind of a lot of people are after. But actual truth is that blockchain gaming is going to become the thing when actually it takes the very modest role under the hood. Okay? So, that model that Mythical is pursuing is kind of very promising. Even Top Shots has proven that.
Right.
There's no kind of blockchain in there if you don't look. So, psychologically speaking, us, the people who are in the blockchain, they really, it's crypto is very social
Yeah.
movement, and you can really make gazillions of dollars if you create that social movement successfully. Look at the meme coins, ridiculous thing that has become a multi-billion-dollar thing, right? And everybody wants that. They don't want to make, $100,000 a year because on doing something dull. They want to make $1 billion by making something that everybody talks about.
Yeah.
So that's what's been happening. That's why it's taking so long.
Interesting.
We need to find our place in the kind of the wider world.
I think those projects were just the first to sprout out, but I think a lot of people are building and are trying to get there. But it takes more time than those meme coins, I guess.
Yep. But I am upset. I've never gotten a meme coin and gone to the moon.
Never, eh?
I'm still waiting for it.
I did once, but then I lost it all in the same week. It's terrible, yeah.
So that's good. I mean, I think the way that we are as an industry now, the point of inflection where things change is that it's the business model that needs to change. So mobile gaming, right, from a screen, then we had a smartphone with no app stores, right? And so then I think the trigger for developers were like, oh, good, we have a good screen, let's port a game which I have for a PlayStation or a Nintendo on here.
Yeah.
Put the same price, $29.99, $30.99, and I think they saw that it doesn't work, right? Because porting something which has a different sort of layout and system was not a fun experience. And for some reason, we have all been conditioned that we're fine to pay $1,000 for our phone, but there's no way I'm giving $2.99 in an app store.
Yeah.
And I think somewhere there that triggered the change, and we got sort of the freemium and free to play, which I think that's sort of what pushed a new business model in these types of games, with all of the shit that came with it, like sort of pay to win and these aggravating sort of type of mechanics. But maybe we're still in search of a business model for.
Do you think that pushed
games.
it? That like they saw that people aren't buying them anymore? Because I think it's happened. Like one started doing free to play, saw that people are willing to spend a lot of money if they feel connected to the game, and they were like, let's just do that. I
mean, that's why I think it's a change in the business model, because the business model is supposed to take you to revenues, and they were seeing that nobody's getting in the game, so let me get them in, and if I hook them, which is I think how a good game loop works, eventually you're going to open your wallet and
exactly. But I feel like that's like almost like a win-win, right? So you try to engage the player, you give him like a free experience, and then once he thinks he would feel better by purchasing something, he does. But then he's like at that point where he does feel satisfied anyway. Then you use a game, you're like happy about it, I guess.
I think so. I mean, it has the same risks as what we were saying before about play to earn. If you build it in an aggravating way, it falls apart. Same thing that if you're doing a freemium, but essentially it's play to win, and you're forcing people to keep sort of paying to just progress in the game, it can get pretty messed up. But I think, sort of like.
You're talking about kind of playing the long game and really developing the right tech instead of chasing the shiny objects. When I first got into space, Unique was really like a leader in NFTs. What's Unique been developing in the background that kind of supports this gaming use case?
Things that we have proven back then that should be there and it can be there, but on an industrial strength kind of level. It's very boring stuff.
Okay, well, let's get into it. What do you mean by industrial strength, NFTs?
That means production level, so that thing works, that it works kind of, 100% of the time. It's blockchain. You shouldn't be, losing anything of value. Right. And that it works on some kind of scale and that it works with everything else, et cetera, et cetera. So doing that is actually much simpler, much harder than anybody thinks. In blockchain, it can take you, a day or two or a month or two to kind of do things to prove that you can do it. But then it takes you a year or two to actually do it on a scale where it really works for bigger applications and that you have all the tooling around it. Don't forget, Polkadot is new. Didn't have any wallets supporting NFTs. They didn't have any minting solutions. They didn't have. There were very few people who know Rust or Substrate and so on. So you need kind of all kinds of toolings, SDKs for others to be able to interact with it, etc., etc. So just an example, last year we did about 6,000 GitHub commits, and out of that, about 1,200 was the core stuff that goes into the blockchain, and the rest was all the tooling around, because there was none. Okay, so we did the heavy lifting there, learned our lesson, but that's what you need to do to actually get to make software that works, and that works always, and that works on a scale to be able for people to actually use it. It's one thing to kind of build something and say, okay, now if you want to use it, dig into GitHub, read the code and the comments on it, and go about and kind of build your own thing. Okay, there are some people who get hot about that, but I don't think it's the majority. Majority wants to say, okay, I see this video or read this presentation in 5 minutes and off I go.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And to get there, you need to explain it to the people in that language, and that means SDK and the documentation and the videos and all the other stuff.
Unity is, I think, a common tool for everyone.
Okay.
And since Unity as a company decided to give a decentralized solution, let's say, so you get verified and you have access to the decentralized asset store, as they call.
Right.
But that's a source of like close to 1.5 million developers that visit it monthly. Why, which all of us as parachains individually go through a verification process and pay 100K a year, when we can create a Polkadot sort of solution, then all of us then as parachains have access to it. And it doesn't limit us in terms of what we can do individually on top of it, right? It's sort of a base layer for everyone, and then each of us can build on top. So let's find common tools that we can all sort of push together as an ecosystem, and then we can all go back into our own little boxes and build our stuff.
What does this allow us to do that we couldn't do before?
From my perspective, one is, so there's the visibility part of it, that right now there's a decentralized story where you have Aptos, you have Polygon, but Polkadot is nowhere. And since Polkadot has sort of decided that one of the verticals that they want to go after is gaming, it's a must to have a presence, whether that's Unity or Unreal, because Unity is used by over 60%, I think, of game developers to build everything. So we need a presence.
What does it allow you to build as far as games go?
To mint NFTs.
Okay.
And to use them, probably. But that's, it's as simple as that.
Okay.
I see it more as maybe sort of the interface upon which developers can build a game. It's not only used for games, right? It's sort of the front end side of things, right? So it's used for architecture. It can be used for animation. There's different, I think,
True that.
use cases probably for Unity.
Gotcha. Okay, so we're the developers, we're building games, and then we have players who input time into the game. But I guess players also input relationships and imagination and lore. And how do we open the doors to these players to make them, or to invite them to become part of the development of these games?
I think you just listen to them. Like, you try to be active. I think a big part about it is just listening to the community, trying to be engaged, and I think it's the only way to be in the trenches. And then a lot of them are really willing and are happy about giving feedback and being engaged. So
I agree. You just need to be like in a strong, a closed feedback loop with your community, and they always happy to tell you what they want. And we experienced it with our Minecraft-based stuff. People put in insane amount of hours. We had like a seasonal servers with like plots, making FPS plots. And really, like, people spend their life there. I don't even know how people have that much time to do it, and they just do it for fun. And also a public pressure village. Also, it's in Minecraft. You got no incentives for being there and building it, and they just did. It's built insane cities.
Right.
Just having fun.
I remember, I feel like some people were getting their kids to play as well, right?
Yeah,
If you're wondering where all the time came from, it might have been.
Actually, really other way around. But okay.
Okay.
I'm seriously considering at some point, like, I need to the kid right now. I need to groom that kid to be a pro player so he can, take the lunch money of others.
Right.
But I think it's an interesting approach as well. Like, we're big fans of like the 80-20 approach, just building something to 80% and then slowly getting to the perfection, which you will obviously never reach. But I think what is really great if you have a really tight-knit community there is like you get to the 80, you push it out, and you get feedback, and you can integrate that feedback of the community and integrate it into the game, and they feel heard. They give great feedback most of the time, so it's like a win-win almost. Like you don't spend that unnecessary time of really perfecting it, but you rather get like a community involved. That worked for us at least.
Yeah, I love that.
But I think what Adam said, sort of, it's the closed loop, right? Because all you have to do is go sort of on Twitter, not crypto Twitter, game Twitter, and you'll see that it's equally as toxic as crypto. And you'll see, if you see how fans are interacting there with the developers, it's horrible, right? It's fix your shitty game. And they're talking to developers that, from Activision with, millions and millions of players. So I don't know, there's a fine line between where you're listening and working with the community and crossing that line and you're allowing the inmates to run the prison. So
Right.
I don't see a future where we're going to have, let's say, on-chain decisions about development.
About every little aspect of it.
I don't think
we're
that...
talking Black Mirror here, no.
No, exactly. So I don't know. Again, I don't know the answer, but I think there's a closed circle which is always sort of opinionated and they want support. As you move to the more casuals, they will casually treat you and tell you to, hey, this is great, or equally, just F off, your game sucks.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I think a big piece of at least both of your platforms is you also want to enable other people to build games upon it. Can you speak a little bit to that experience?
Kusama was until recently quite closed, like in the past 1 year for sure, because of this exact same reason I think that you mentioned, that we wanted to keep the family tight, and they were the ones giving us valuable feedback of how to shape everything that we do. And I think if we would have try to scale too early, too fast, involving who knows what kind of people we would have been constantly being shit on. And recently we see so many, I mentioned it in my presentation too, communities building and having their own sub-communities inside the Kusama ecosystem, mostly NFT based. And they also came to the same realization that cool, we have NFTs, nice pictures to look at, but we actually want to do something fun with them. We want to play. And they try to develop their own kinds of games. Of course, they're all simple, and they try to do all the same little steps that we had to do back then. So we came to a point where we need to help all these communities or builders with tools or know-how, documentation, whatever we can offer them to grow and also grow our own ecosystem, because in the end they're a part of us. They're plugged into the whole larger picture of Kusama, for example. And take it from there.
Right. I remember in the early days, once you launched your NFT marketplace, people were launching NFT collections, and then those collections were making their ways into the game, right? Like Marlua Kusama and all those original one-of-one art pieces and whatnot. That was so cool.
We started, last year was all about the infrastructure for us, right?
Right.
We had to go get our parachain, set up the team to make sure that we can set everything up. And from my side, like Nicholas, I was already out sort of trying to talk with game developers and game studios. And I think I had a pretty consistent message that was coming from everyone, which was, we want money and we want a community, right? Because as a blockchain, I think, space, we've conditioned game developers that, hey, just go to an ecosystem fund, they'll throw you 50K, 100K, and you'll build. You can't build any game with 50 or 100K, and what was happening is that they would just jump from one ecosystem to the other, getting 50Ks and launching the same game.
Sure.
But the end result for us was the same. It's very difficult to sign up a game to build on us as sort of a new parachain in an ecosystem doesn't have users, has nothing to do with gaming up until recently. So at some point our choice was pretty simple. We need to switch faster to the product layer or the application layer, because it's much easier to build a community, I think, around products. Rather than, hey, let me tell you about the awesome infrastructure and Medium articles and things like that.
Right.
So at some point, by switching to the application layer, we're just trying to figure out sort of our north is if we can create products which can at the same time onboard a community for sort of third parties that want to enter and raise them a bit of funds. So with the Kusama Avatars, that was the idea. Sort of not an NFT drop, but how about if the game is about you creating your own NFT on your own through a mini game, crafting, and so on and so forth?
Right.
So hopefully by the end of that sort of mini game, you have your avatar or your NFT, which it has value because you care about it. You've spent X amount of time.
We're taking what we learned from like the community, like you talked about as well. We built a new team, new developers, and working together with Peanut, for example.
Yeah, right.
And are building a new game that's called Stardust The Colonies.
Different story?
Yeah, it's a completely different game. It's just us in the back because we saw that that's what's working for us.
Yeah.
Like building the team and communicating a lot and trying to, like the approach we take to building a game, delivering, just really resonated with the community as well. So we're taking those expertise, build a new team with competent people and deliver on, and I mean, with them, they're offering so much support and help. So it's almost
Crazy. So what happens to the Everloot story? What happens to the Everloot NFTs?
I mean, that's completely separate. I mean, the main goal is, obviously, I mean, I talked with so many people about it today that what needs to happen in the whole Polkadot gaming space is that we need to work together.
Yeah,
and that's just another approach for us as well, like trying to combine the communities, not work against each other, but build like a big group where everybody's excited for everybody, hopefully a lot of positivity. And I mean, they are separate, but the main goal is to combine the communities and show what gaming can be like and apply those ethics, those ideals, I guess, to a Yuna as well.
Alex, what's happening at Unique coming up that's going to be contributing to this vertical?
Well, we did some very serious infrastructure stuff for, my conversation is always about the next generation NFTs. So we've done, we made the first kind of NFT palette in the ecosystem, and now we made it very powerful. It can do a lot of things. We made a few more palettes, so we can do nesting, we can do bundling, we can do all kinds of weird stuff like that you actually do need in gaming. So for some of those more hardcore kind of people that want to do more on chain, they got actually toys to play with. So that stuff has been released, and now what we're working on is eye candies for all of them to inspire and kind of start building out. So that's we had a few hackathons where people are making UIs for bundles to kind of play with and so on. It was very funky things, at least for our dev relations guy. He's crying when he sees them. He's happy. Because you can kind of do very cool stuff with it, and then combine that with the mass adoption kind of tooling, like sponsoring transaction fees. So you can hide the blockchain under the hood, or kind of fiat gateways, or things like that. People can start really playing with some serious level infrastructure. The second important thing that we are working hard on since kind of earlier this year is NFT XCM. Something that kind of Polkadot people will appreciate. So we have XCM for which is messaging between parachains, but we don't have it for NFTs, right? So the really important things for this thing to work. Okay, so what we're just talking about is to be able to actually send NFTs from one parachain to the other, and that's what we're working on. So hopefully, that happens, then we can really start having people playing and kind of playing football between different parachains or something like that.
So cool.
That's going to be that's going to be fun.
NFT XEM for NFTs, that was released with V3, right? But we just don't.
Nope.
What was that whole story? I thought it was like NFTs over XEM now. No.
Nope.
That's bullshit.
Yep.
I don't know.
Why was that bullshit?
All you can send is an identifier. You can't send metadata or nothing about it. So
Better for V4.
And actually,
It's always V5.
no. Actually, there is nothing. Believe me. We were doing that for a few months now. The next thing actually that needs to happen, what we realized, is first step to cure that is because it's actually two things. You're sending ID and metadata, and it's two transactions. If you send them, you can send two transactions, but the second one can fail, and then you have an NFT that's lost in it. So actually, the first step we're doing is the thing that's going to fix that, so help you recovery and so on, and then we can really focus on a serious thing, which is a very long and boring conversation. But once it's done, then everybody's going to be happy. Okay.
Hey, all right, we'll trust you on that one. Thank you.
We just went through that. We migrated Everloot from Kusama to Moonbeam, and we had exactly that happen. Like, since the composability of, we are using Remark, I'm sorry. You had like stages where one stuff was working and the rest wasn't, and then you have like this, those problems you occur. So I think multi-chain is going to be interesting for sure.
Yeah. No, it's a tough nut to crack, but we'll get there. Polkadot is good enough for that.
Good stuff. And Adam, what's coming up on Moonsama that we can look forward to?
I'm not allowed to drop alphas.
Okay. Can you drop one?
Just one.
Half.
No, this one is strictly controlled. So.
First three letters.
Sounds good. Okay. But it's coming.
Yeah. And then, like all of our game developments focus there because, we love Minecraft, but, they came out with the scare of, they released this statement that they don't like NFTs. And they're not banned right now, but they're who knows?
Who cares? They're Microsoft guys now. The real guy is gone. He's got his $1 billion. So, just go at it.
Still at the end,
That's what I'm saying.
This is fascinating talk, and it's really actually interesting to get all you together because it seems like you're all approaching this from different angles and all running into different challenges and finding different solutions.
We're all pulling on the same string.
Yeah, exactly. It seems to be this convergence there.
Hey, Captain.
Yes, aye. So anyway, thanks very much everybody for coming on the show and sharing your experiences. Thanks for being here.
Thanks.
Cheers.